Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Hello, hi. Welcome to another session on SharePoint. I love integrating SharePoint with external products, and recently I could display cool charts in SharePoint. So in this tutorial, I would like to guide you on creating cool charts in SharePoint with just HTML, CSS and JavaScript knowledge. So let's get started. Overall, main steps. First, get the cool chart from an external link. In this today's demo, we'll have a look at Canvas.js and get the chart displayed in simple HTML itself. And identify the data section. And then second step is to modify the data section and display the data dynamically from a SharePoint list. So before coming to this tutorial, hope you already know how to display the data from a SharePoint list either using client-side object model or REST API. You can choose any of them. You just need to get the data from a SharePoint list and put them in an array. And the next step is to create a page and add the code to the script editor web part, which will combine both the chart code and the SharePoint code to display the chart in the SharePoint page. So, and finally, if you are interested for reusability, you can convert that to a SharePoint hosted app easily by just putting the JavaScript code in the app.js in the SharePoint hosted app. For today's demo, we'll just look at the script editor version. Fine. So, the first step is to just identify the HTML which will display the chart. So, I'm going to the Canvas.js page where there are beautiful JavaScript charts which can be created in minutes. Okay. So I need to test one of these charts using a simple HTML. I open up the HTML. So this is a simple HTML code which I've copy pasted from the chart.js. So the first thing to note is whatever external script it is, you have to just add a reference to that. So it's a good practice to download that and upload, and later you can upload that into the site assets library in SharePoint. So for our first example, let's just get the HTML file displayed and look at the code. There is just a few lines of simple code which is just displaying the chart, and any chart usually has a container. The chart container is nothing but a div and it has the ID of chart container. You can the height is 300 pixel and width is 100%. And next, the title of the chart. You can change this later if needed. And these are some of the properties like animation enable and the data region which contains the data. And it is manually displaying the values for the fruits and their prices. For example, apple 10, orange 15, banana 25, mango 30, grape 28. So this I've copy pasted and finally the chart is rendered. So this is a very simple HTML code. So let's just run this in a HTML page, and this is how the chart looks like. So there is cool. The chart looks great. I can hover over it and it displays the name and the price or the value. Next is to get the data dynamically. So what we do is we just change the HTML code to make sure that we can get the data dynamically. So in this particular example for this chart, the data is getting in the array format. It is of the format label, which has the value apple, label followed by the x-axis is label and y-axis of 10. And so this is the type of array. So in this example, I've modified to get the value dynamically. And if I want to push the value, for example, if I have a variable called kiwi and I want to push that value, I can just call the array and use the push function and then pass the value called label colon fruit and y45. So this is the only thing you need to observe. For different charts, the way you would get the data will be different. So this is the only change you would have to make. So in this particular Canvas example, the data points are of the format label fruit value, that is the label x value, and the y-axis value, which is coming from the value column. So, and once I run this particular chart, it looks like this. So apple, banana, kiwi was dynamically added. Now, the next step is to now pull the SharePoint values. And for that, so So first you need to have a SharePoint list. In our example, let's create a SharePoint list called fruits, which will have a title column and a value column. The title will have the fruit names and the value will have the fruit values or the price. If you don't have a list called fruits, let's just create one of the custom list type. And next we need to integrate that into SharePoint. To integrate that into SharePoint, it's very simple. So I already done the code. So have a look at this code. So first you need to put the div ID. So we are going to display the chart in the div tag. So pretty much you're going to copy paste the entire code, that is the script, the JavaScript part. Only changes you would have to now extract the value from the SharePoint list. So for that part, I'm going to just write few lines of code using CSOM using JavaScript, whereby I read the list fruits and pass the read the column values called title and value using CSOM. So this piece of code can be changed according to your whichever you're comfortable with. It can be a CSOM coding or even REST API. Anything would come. But make sure that, so this line of code I'm calling the client context, and then I'm getting the list and calling a camel query and reading the title value and the value columns. And over here, just note that this particular example, so most of the times you might just x-axis you have to push the x-axis, that is the title column, and y-axis would be the value column. But in this case, I'm just trying to just combine everything, data chart dot push, and I'm passing the variables label followed by the list item of x-axis name, that is the title column, and then the y-axis name, that is the value column. And you can use console.log if you want to debug, and during development that will be very helpful. And finally, I've copy pasted the code, the chart code now. So this is the chart code where the chart code starts from this. I'm just copy pasting that code, and in the data points, I'll pass the data chart array. That's it. And I'm just when on the page load, this function will be called. Very simple. Okay. And once what I have to do is I'll go to the SharePoint page, and I have to add in the SharePoint page, I have to add a page where I want to display the chart. And it's good practice to probably create a new folder which will contain your custom pages. And what I've done is I've added the canvas.js, win.js, uploaded that to this folder where you're going to have the pages. It's a good practice. Otherwise, you can put that in a scripts folder. And once that is done, I go to the page. I've created a page already, and I go to the page and add a script editor web part. And in the edit snippet, I copy paste this particular piece of code where I'm calling where I have a div tag, the chart container, and I'm having the JavaScript code which will display the chart and read the values using SharePoint CSOM. Okay. And once that code is added, I just save the page and hit refresh, and the chart is displayed. That's it. And this is the SharePoint list called fruits, where it has values apple 20, mango 100, kiwi 200, and these are the values. So this very simple technique can be extended to any kind of external application. So if I've shown the demo for Canvas.js, so what I'm trying to say is it may be anything like Endo UI or Chart.js. I actually tried another demo for Chart.js. So this is how a JS chart looks like. So it's just up to your imagination. Suppose you're good in some jQuery or any cool API, you can happily integrate that into SharePoint using this technique. That is, first step, you need to execute that particular script. It may be Angular, TypeScript, JavaScript. Just execute that script in HTML. Then learn how to get the SharePoint data using REST or CSOM. Whichever is comfortable, learn how to get that data and put that into a temporary array. And finally, you integrate that into a simple JavaScript code, which will show the chart as well as read the SharePoint list and display that. So I feel this is a very powerful and a quick technique to get the chart done. And so this is a very good feature, because unfortunately in SharePoint 2010, we had the SharePoint chart web part, and that's gone in 2013. And when I was working in MOS 2007, I used Visifire, which was very good. So I really forgot what I used JavaScript. I remember JavaScript or jQuery and Zap file, Silverlight. So the technique is pretty much simple. You execute the code in the external tool, and then try to integrate that into SharePoint. And currently, thankfully, nowadays in SharePoint 2013 and online in 2016, we have the CSOM and REST APIs through which you can get the SharePoint list data easily. So I hope this is another demo where I have used display the chart.js and display the SharePoint data in a chart form. So as a quick summary, we just saw how to display SharePoint cool charts. So the first step is to get the chart displayed in HTML, test the script in HTML, and then modify the data section. Try to get the data dynamically and then get the data dynamically from SharePoint lists either using CSOM or REST. And then add that page to a content editor web part or a script editor web part and test the code. And use console.log for best practices to debug the code if needed. And if you want to reuse it, you can convert that to a SharePoint hosted app. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this helps you all. Take care and have a good day.